Welcome to Iowa, a state full of paranormal hotspots and haunted history. In this video, we dive into 3 of the most haunted locations in the state. As always, if you have any locations that you want us to cover in a video, please comment down below. The Independence Mental Hospital, also called Independence State Hospital, stands as one of Iowa's most infamous historic asylums. Construction began in 1863, and it finally opened its doors in 1873. It was designed in the Kirkbride style, a type of architecture meant to bring light, air, and hope to those struggling with mental illness. The building stretches across acres of land, with long wings and tall windows that were supposed to help patients recover. The architect, Stephen von Shipman, wanted this to be a place of healing, a model for the nation. At first, the hospital focused on helping people with mental illnesses. Over the decades, however, it became home to many others, including those with addictions and the elderly who needed care. Crowding became common, and the hospital had to make hard choices just to manage so many residents at once. Though the original idea was moral treatment, this meant structured schedules, work, and strict routines. But it also left a mark on the building itself. Every corridor and hallway carries decades of energy from countless lives. Even today, the older wings of Independence Mental Hospital remain mostly untouched. Some areas are closed to the public, preserved almost as they were over 100 years ago. Visitors to these halls often report a feeling of heaviness, like the air itself remembers the past. Paranormal investigators have noted sudden drops in temperature and unexplained sounds, especially in areas where patients once spent most of their time. It is said that the energy of the hospital is strongest in the older wings, where the architecture channels sound and movement through long, narrow hallways. The hospital also contains what is now called the Days of Yore Museum. It is set up in the old wings and displays medical equipment from the hospital's early years. Some of these artifacts, such as early electroshock devices, were meant to treat patients, but now serve as chilling reminders of how far medical care has come. Those exploring the museum often describe a sense of being watched, a feeling that someone, maybe many someones, still lingers nearby. Even staff in the modern parts of the hospital sometimes hear unexplained noises drifting from the older, unused areas. Tonight, as we begin our exploration, we start in this historic section. The floors are creaking, and the walls feel cold, even in the evening. There is a quiet, almost invisible tension in the air, as if the building itself is aware of our presence. It is here, in the oldest wings, where the first stories of spirits and shadows emerge. Investigators using EMF meters and spirit boxes often experience minor readings at first, gentle signals that grow stronger as they move deeper into the hospital. These readings are rarely aggressive, but they do suggest that something unseen is aware of visitors. Standing here, looking down the long corridors of the original hospital, it is easy to see why people say this place is haunted. The combination of its history, its architecture, and the countless people who have passed through its halls creates a setting that is both fascinating and terrifying. And as we move further into the old wings, we begin to feel that we are not just exploring history. We are walking through layers of energy that refuse to stay buried. As we move deeper into the older wings of Independence Mental Hospital, one of the most famous ghost stories emerges: the lady in the wheelchair. This area was once part of the youth wing, a section meant for younger patients. The hallways are narrow, and the rooms are small, lined with heavy wooden doors and old peeling paint. Walking through here, the air feels heavier, almost like it carries the weight of the past. Visitors and staff alike have reported seeing her over the years. The story goes that she appears as an elderly woman, sitting silently in a plain wooden wheelchair. She doesn't move, doesn't speak, but her presence is undeniable. Those who encounter her describe an overwhelming sense of being watched. Some have even felt a sudden chill or a shift in air pressure, as though she is aware of their presence. Paranormal investigators have confirmed these reports, often detecting EMF spikes or sudden, unexplained drops in temperature in this exact hallway. The room associated with her is empty today. There is no wheelchair, no sign of anyone having been there recently. Yet, multiple accounts suggest that she manifests most clearly at night or when the hospital is quiet. Some say she has been seen looking toward the door, almost as if waiting for someone or trying to warn them. The stories are consistent across decades, hinting at a lingering spirit tied to this space rather than random imaginings. Investigators have used REM pods and other paranormal detection tools in this hallway. These devices emit a small energy field and alert when something interacts with it. In several documented investigations, the devices have suddenly lit up without any human interference. The flashes often last a few seconds and then stop, leaving everyone in the room questioning whether they just witnessed something supernatural. Even when staff try to remain skeptical, the evidence is hard to ignore. What makes this encounter so chilling is the way it feels personal. Unlike many reported ghosts that remain in the shadows or appear briefly in hallways, the lady in the wheelchair seems to occupy the space fully. Those who have experienced her presence often report an almost emotional reaction, a combination of fear, sadness, and empathy. It is as though the walls themselves are whispering the stories of those who spent time here, unable to leave the past behind. The youth wing and its hallways provide a direct connection to the hospital's history, reminding us that the building was not only a treatment center, but also a home for many young patients. While the facility has long since modernized, and some wings have been repurposed, these old sections remain intact, frozen in time. This preservation may be one reason the lady in the wheelchair continues to appear, tethered to the very environment she once knew. Tonight, as we stand in that same hallway, the feeling of anticipation is almost tangible. It is quiet, but not peaceful. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant echo, seems magnified. The lady in the wheelchair is not a fleeting shadow. She is a symbol of the enduring presence that haunts this hospital, a reminder that some stories from Independence Mental Hospital are far from over. One of the most unsettling aspects of Independence Mental Hospital isn't what you see, it's what you hear. Long after the older wings were closed to regular patients, staff and visitors began reporting sounds that seemed impossible. In the modern wings, faint noises drift from the old corridors, as though the building itself is whispering secrets of its past. The sounds are subtle at first, a distant shuffle, the tap of shoes on wooden floors, or a soft scraping against metal. The old patient hallways are especially notorious. Visitors have described hearing the distinct clicking of women's heels, echoing down empty corridors where no one is walking. Some say the sound is rhythmic, almost purposeful, as if the person or spirit is pacing while waiting for someone. Tour groups occasionally report whispers that rise and fall, unintelligible but unmistakably human in tone. In some cases, these whispers are accompanied by brief, sharp sounds, like a chair scraping across the floor or a door creaking open by itself. Investigators exploring these hallways often choose to stop and stand still, listening for any sign of movement. The quiet is heavy and expectant. It isn't peaceful, it's charged, as if the building is holding its breath. Using digital audio recorders and EMF meters, teams have captured unexplained spikes in energy during moments when the noises occur. The recordings sometimes reveal faint voices or metallic clattering that cannot be linked to any known source. The architectural design of the hospital plays a role in the eerie effect. Long, narrow corridors with high ceilings and thick walls create perfect acoustics for sound to carry unnaturally. Even a slight movement in one wing can resonate throughout the building, making it difficult to distinguish between natural echoes and something truly paranormal. Many who explore the old patient wards describe the sensation of footsteps following them, only to disappear when they turn around. Visitors often report a creeping pressure in the air when these sounds manifest. It's subtle at first, a chill that brushes past your neck or a sudden heaviness in your chest, as investigators proceed deeper into the wings. The combination of the hospital's history and the strange noises can create a feeling of intense unease. Even those who do not believe in ghosts feel a heightened awareness of the surroundings. The auditory phenomena at Independence Mental Hospital are not limited to one hallway or floor. They are reported throughout the older patient areas, from the lower wings to the upper floors. Each sound, whether it's a shuffle, a whisper, or a metallic scrape, adds to the impression that the building is alive in some inexplicable way, carrying echoes of lives that spent decades inside these walls. Standing in the middle of a long, deserted corridor, it's easy to imagine the countless footsteps that have passed before, the whispered words that have lingered, and the energy that refuses to fade. These sounds are not just tricks of the mind. They are a consistent part of the hospital's haunted reputation. For those willing to listen, the halls of Independence Mental Hospital speak, telling stories that cannot be seen, but can be felt in every creak, whisper, and echo. Beneath the main building of Independence Mental Hospital lies a network of tunnels. These passageways were originally built to allow staff and supplies to move between wings without exposure to the harsh Iowa winters. The tunnels are narrow, with low ceilings and damp, stale air. Over the years, they have become one of the hospital's most unsettling areas, largely unseen by the public. The tunnels are often described as claustrophobic. Investigators who have entered report feeling completely cut off from the outside world. There is no natural light, and the echo of footsteps can make it feel like someone else is always walking behind you. Many people exploring these underground paths have experienced a strange sense of being followed, even when they are alone. Some describe hearing footsteps that match their own pace, as though an unseen presence is mirroring their every move. Paranormal reports from the tunnels often include disembodied whispers and low, indistinct voices. Occasionally, investigators detect EMF spikes in areas where the tunnels bend or narrow. Some explorers also report sudden drops in temperature, chills that cannot be explained by the building's ventilation or weather outside. The atmosphere in these tunnels is heavy and oppressive, creating a sense of anxiety that builds with every step further into the darkness. There are also stories of fleeting shadows in the tunnels. Witnesses describe seeing dark human-like shapes moving at the edge of their vision, disappearing when directly looked at. Unlike the sightings in the upper floors, these figures seem to glide silently, without the sound of shoes or movement. The tunnel's history contributes to the chilling environment. While they were intended for practical purposes, the shadows and unexplained sounds have made them a hotspot for paranormal investigations in Iowa. The tunnel network also connects to some of the hospital's oldest and most isolated wings. These areas were once storage spaces, laundry rooms, or maintenance areas, now long abandoned. Investigators note that the energy in these hidden spaces often feels stronger, more active, than in the better preserved museum sections. The combination of darkness, confined space, and history creates an environment that seems to amplify paranormal activity. For anyone brave enough to enter, the tunnels are not just a physical challenge. They are an emotional and psychological experience. Many report a sense of urgency, like the building itself is watching or aware of their presence. Some have described the sensation of cold air brushing past them, footsteps echoing without a source, or the feeling of unseen eyes following their every move. This section of the hospital is perhaps the clearest example of how the past lingers in physical spaces, and how energy from long ago events can leave a permanent mark. The tunnels of Independence Mental Hospital serve as a stark reminder that not all hauntings are visible. Some are heard, felt or sensed. Walking through them, it is easy to understand why so many investigators report a deep, unsettling connection to the spirits of the hospital. Here in the underground passages, history and the paranormal collide in a way that leaves even the most experienced explorers wary and alert. As our investigation comes to a close, we step back outside, looking at the towering structure of Independence Mental Hospital under the night sky. The building's Gothic architecture, tall windows, and sprawling wings take on an almost foreboding presence after walking through its halls and tunnels. Standing here, it's clear that the stories of this place are more than legend. They are echoes of lives that have left an impression on the hospital that refuses to fade. One of the most consistent reports from both staff and visitors involves the sensation of presence. Many describe an unshakable feeling that someone is nearby, watching or following them, even in empty rooms. Paranormal investigators note that this feeling is strongest near areas that were once central to patient care, such as former treatment rooms, dormitories, and administrative offices. People often describe brief glimpses of figures moving just out of the corner of their eyes, shadows that vanish when confronted. These sightings, combined with unexplained noises, suggest that the energy here is persistent and aware. Visitors have also reported hearing voices, sometimes faint and distant, other times startlingly clear. These sounds range from whispers and murmurs to what some describe as commands or warnings. Investigators often attempt communication with spirit boxes, recording devices, and other equipment, capturing words and syllables that appear to respond directly to their presence. Even when no one else is in the room, these responses seem intentional, as though the spirits are choosing when to interact. Another commonly reported phenomenon involves temperature changes and sudden drafts. Hallways that feel warm in the daytime can become icy at night, even in well-insulated areas. Investigators often document these changes alongside unexplained noises or EMF activity, reinforcing the idea that the hospital retains residual energy from its long history. These sensations are not tied to ventilation or external weather conditions. They appear to originate from the building itself. The hospital's history also continues to shape its paranormal reputation. From its opening in 1873, it has seen generations of patients and staff. While medical care has evolved and modern wings now house active psychiatric services, the original wings retain the atmosphere of the past. Visitors describe the space as heavy and emotional, as if the building itself is filled with memory. The combination of architecture, history, and long-term human presence seems to create an environment where paranormal activity thrives. Ultimately, Independence Mental Hospital is a place where history and haunting are inseparable. Every corridor, room, and tunnel holds stories of those who lived, worked, and wandered here over nearly a century and a half. Even today, the building speaks, not with words, but through shadows, sounds, and sensations that cannot be fully explained. Those who explore the site, whether staff, investigators, or visitors, leave with the impression that some part of the past is still very much present. As we turn to leave, it is impossible not to feel the lingering presence of the hospital. The warnings, the whispers, and the shadows are reminders that places like Independence Mental Hospital are more than structures. They are living memories. For those willing to listen, the hospital tells its story in the only way it knows how, through the energy and spirits of the people who pass through its doors, forever a part of Iowa's most haunting asylum. In the early fall of 1903, Van Meter, Iowa was a calm and ordinary place. It was a small farming town with dirt roads, wooden buildings, and quiet nights, broken only by the sound of the wind and the nearby river. Most people worked long days and went to bed early. Nothing strange ever happened there, and that was exactly how the town liked it. Van Meter sat near the Raccoon River and was surrounded by open land and coal mines that had once brought work and growth to the area. By this time, some of those mines were no longer used. They sat dark and forgotten at the edge of town, slowly being taken back by nature. No one thought much about them anymore. As September came to an end, the nights grew cooler and darker. Windows were shut, lamps were turned low, and the town settled into its usual routine. That peace did not last. Late one night, just before the end of the month, a strange light appeared without warning. It was bright enough to wake someone from sleep and strong enough to fill a room. At first, it seemed like it could be explained away. People assumed it was a trick of the eyes or maybe someone outside with a lantern. But when the light moved, the feeling changed. It did not act like anything familiar. It rose high above the buildings and crossed rooftops with ease. There was no sound at first, just the glow cutting through the darkness. Then as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. By morning, the story had already begun to spread. Neighbors spoke in low voices, some laughed it off, but others felt uneasy. The light did not behave like fire or electricity, and no one could explain how it moved the way it did. That night marked the beginning of something that would shake the town to its core. Over the next few evenings, more people stayed awake after dark. Doors were locked earlier than usual. Lamps were kept close. There was a growing sense that Van Meter was no longer alone at night. Whatever had shown itself in the sky was not finished. And soon, the people of Van Meter would realize they were not just seeing a strange light. They were about to come face to face with something far more terrifying, something that would turn their quiet town into one of Iowa's darkest haunted legends. After the strange light first appeared, the quiet nights of Van Meter were gone. People were restless, sleeping lightly, unsure of what might appear after dark. It did not take long for the mystery to turn into fear. Late in the night, on September 29th, 1903, a respected local businessman was suddenly woken by an intense white glow pouring into his bedroom. At first, he believed someone was outside his home using a powerful lamp. Concerned, he stepped outside to investigate. What he saw made no sense. The light was not coming from the ground. It was perched high above the street, resting on the roof of a nearby building. Without warning, it leapt across the road and landed on another rooftop with ease. The movement was smooth and unnatural, not like anything human. Moments later, the light vanished into the darkness. The following night, the situation grew even more disturbing. Another respected member of the town was startled awake by the same blinding glow. This time, the light was closer and stronger. When he stepped outside, he saw the source clearly enough to know it was no trick. Standing on a tall telephone pole was a large, upright figure. It was not an animal anyone recognized. The shape appeared tall and broad, with massive wings folded against its sides. Its body looked humanoid, but its features were wrong. From the center of its head protruded a short horn, and from that horn came the bright beam of light that had been waking the town. The creature did not move like a bird. It watched silently, as if aware it was being observed. When shots were fired, they had no effect. The figure did not fall or cry out. Instead, it spread its wings and lifted into the air, disappearing into the night sky as easily as it had arrived. By morning, word spread fast. These were not wild rumors passed between children. These were serious adults describing the same thing: a winged creature, a glowing light, and a presence that felt intelligent and aware. Fear took hold of Van Meter. People stayed indoors after sunset. Businesses closed early. Windows were covered. Each night, residents listened closely for strange sounds, waiting to see if the creature would return. And return it did. What began as strange lights had now become something physical and terrifying. The Van Meter visitor was no longer just a mystery in the dark. It was watching the town, and the town knew it. By the time the third night arrived, Van Meter was no longer just uneasy. The town was on edge. Word of the winged figure had reached nearly every household, and many people refused to believe it was a simple mistake or a prank. Too many details matched. Too many witnesses described the same shape, the same light, and the same feeling of dread. one local banker decided to face whatever was stalking the town. He believed the stories might be part of a scheme meant to scare people away from their businesses. Armed with a shotgun, he stayed inside his bank after closing, waiting in silence as the night stretched on. Just after midnight, an unsettling sound echoed outside. It was not a cry or a call, but a deep, gurgling noise that did not resemble any known animal. As he approached the front window, a powerful beam of light suddenly blasted through the glass, leaving him stunned and disoriented. Through the glare, he could see the outline of the creature standing outside. It was tall, winged, and motionless. The horn on its head glowed as the light poured outward. The banker fired his weapon more than once, but the shots did nothing. The figure did not fall. It did not react. After a brief moment, it rose into the air and vanished, leaving the man shaken and certain that what he had seen was real. By morning, fear had fully taken hold. The local newspaper reported on the growing panic. People began carrying firearms after dark. Groups gathered on street corners, watching the sky. The creature's presence was no longer limited to nighttime sightings either. During the day, a local hardware store owner noticed something unusual on a nearby telephone pole. Perched high above the street was the same winged figure, resting as if unbothered by daylight. When a shot was fired toward it, the creature took flight. As it left, witnesses noticed something else that had not been reported before. A strong, foul smell lingered in the air. It was described as heavy and sickening, unlike smoke or decay. Not long after, a sharp, high sound was heard as the creature disappeared into the distance. From that moment on, the smell and the sound became part of the legend, signs that the visitor had been near. Van Meter was no longer just watching the skies in fear. The town was preparing to act. As the sightings continued, the people of Van Meter realized waiting in fear was no longer an option. The creature had returned too many times, and each appearance felt closer and more threatening than the last. By early October, the town was exhausted, frightened, and ready to confront whatever had invaded their nights. On the evening of October 3rd, 1903, a group of local men gathered together. They were not trained hunters or investigators, just farmers, shop owners, and workers who had reached their limit. Armed with rifles and lanterns, they formed a small posse and set out to track the creature once and for all. They followed reports and signs toward the edge of town, moving slowly and carefully through the darkness. Their path led them to an abandoned coal mine near an old brickyard. The mine had been closed for years and was known as a dangerous place. With deep tunnels and unstable ground, many believed it was empty and forgotten. As the group approached the mine entrance, the air changed. A loud, unsettling sound came from within the darkness. Witnesses later described it as a terrible noise, unlike anything they had ever heard. It did not sound human or animal. The men hesitated, gripping their weapons as the sound grew closer. Then something emerged. From the mouth of the mine came the winged creature the town had been seeing all week. But it was not alone. A second figure appeared behind it, smaller in size but similar in shape. Both figures were briefly visible in the lantern light. Before the posse could react, a bright beam of light shot out once again, forcing the men to shield their eyes. The air filled with that same overpowering smell. Within moments, both creatures retreated back into the mine, vanishing into the darkness below. The men did not follow. They knew the mine was too dangerous, and whatever lived inside, it was not something they could face underground. Instead, after daylight returned, the town made a final decision. The entrance to the coal mine was sealed shut, cutting off access to the tunnels beneath Van Meter. After that night, the sightings stopped. The lights did not return. The sounds faded. The winged figure was never seen again in the town. But even with the mine sealed, the people of Van Meter were left with a haunting thought. If the creature had come from below, had it truly been trapped? Or had it simply moved on? After the mine was sealed, life in Van Meter slowly returned to normal. Nights became quiet again, and the strange lights never came back. Still, the events of that fall were never forgotten. The story was passed down through families, spoken about in hushed tones, and remembered as the week when something unknown watched the town from above. For many years, the sightings were treated as local folklore. There was no physical proof left behind, only written accounts and shared memories. Yet, what made the story stand out was the consistency. Multiple people from different parts of town described the same strange features without ever changing their stories. As time went on, researchers began to revisit the case. Some focused on natural explanations, while others looked toward the unexplained. The idea that the creature may have lived underground gained attention, especially due to the abandoned mining tunnels beneath the area. Coal mining had once been active throughout the region, creating deep passageways that few people ever explored. Others pointed to the creature's unusual traits: the glowing light, the lack of response to gunfire, and its intelligence did not fit any known animal. These details pushed the story beyond simple misidentification and into the world of the paranormal. For many, the Van Meter visitor became more than a cryptid. It became a symbol of something not meant to be seen. In modern times, interest in the legend has returned. Occasional reports from rural Iowa describe large, strange figures moving through the night sky. These sightings are rare and often brief, but they echo the same fear felt more than a century ago. People who report them often describe a deep sense of unease, as if they were being watched. Today, Van Meter no longer hides from its past. The town has embraced the legend as part of its identity. Each year, visitors come to learn about the sightings and walk the same streets where fear once ruled the night. What was once a source of terror has become a piece of haunted history. The truth remains unknown. Whether the Van Meter visitor was a creature from the depths, something not of this world, or a mystery that can never be explained, one thing is certain. In 1903, something real enough to terrify an entire town appeared in the darkness. And some legends are born not from stories told around a fire, but from fear that was lived, witnessed, and never fully understood. In the small town of Chelsea, Iowa, there is an old building that many people believe never truly emptied. Today it is known as Periwinkle Place Manor, but for most of its life, it served a very different purpose. Long before ghost stories followed its halls, this place was where the town came face to face with death. Whispers, shadow shapes, and strange voices are now linked to it, but those stories did not appear out of nowhere. They grew from a history that stretches back more than a century. The building first opened in the year 1892 as a funeral home on Main Street. For generations, it was the place where loved ones were brought after passing away. Bodies were prepared here, wakes were held here, and final goodbyes happened inside these walls. For the people of Chelsea, this building became deeply tied to grief and loss. It stayed in operation for more than 100 years, quietly witnessing the hardest moments of many families' lives. Every part of the structure was shaped by its purpose. Rooms that now look like bedrooms once held viewings. Lower areas were used for embalming. A body elevator was installed to move the deceased between floors, and it still exists today. Over time, the building absorbed the weight of what happened inside it. When the funeral home finally closed in the year 2003, the work ended, but many believe the energy did not leave with it. After years of sitting empty, the building was damaged by both fire and flooding. Instead of erasing that past, the damage was sealed and left visible. Burn marks and scars remain as reminders of what the building endured. Even the name Periwinkle Place Manor comes from a real object left behind, an old, periwinkle-colored casket that never left the property. It stands as a quiet symbol of what this place was always meant for. This long connection to death is why so many people believe the manor is haunted. Paranormal investigators say places like this can hold on to emotional energy, especially when death was part of daily life. Strange voices captured on audio, often called electronic voice phenomena, and dark shapes, seen in hallways, are now part of the manor's story. Before anyone ever stayed the night looking for ghosts, the foundation for something unsettling was already there. This is where the haunting of Periwinkle Place Manor truly begins. Not with a single tragedy, but with decades of sorrow layered into one building. And many believe that some of what arrived here over the years never found a reason to leave. When Periwinkle Place Manor became a private residence and guest location, the strange activity did not slowly appear over time. According to those who lived and worked there, it began almost right away. The building did not act like an empty, historic home. It acted like a place that already had occupants. Doors opened on their own. Sounds came from rooms with no one inside, and the feeling of being watched became a normal part of daily life. One of the most unsettling things reported inside the manor was movement that could not be explained. Cupboard doors were heard slamming shut when no one was nearby. Doors that had been fully closed were later found standing wide open. These events were not rare or tied to one moment. They happened again and again, making it clear this was not just an old building settling. Sounds were another constant problem. People inside the manor described hearing coughing, humming, and soft footsteps coming from empty rooms. These noises did not match the layout of the house or the location of anyone inside it. At times, the sounds felt close, as if someone was standing just out of sight. Other times, they echoed through the halls late at night when everything should have been silent. One heavy piece of furniture became a major focus of attention. A large table located in the lower part of the building was repeatedly found moved from its original spot. On several occasions, it was discovered completely flipped over. No signs of forced entry were ever found, and the table was too heavy to be moved easily. After this happened many times, the table was moved to the upper level of the manor, an area known for strong activity. After that change, the table was never disturbed again. Outside the main building, activity was also reported. Near the old carriage house, where vehicles once waited to transport the deceased, a full-shaped figure was seen. The figure appeared briefly, described as smoky and solid, wearing an old-style hat. It vanished quickly, but the sight left no doubt that something unusual had been witnessed. This moment became one of the strongest reasons the manor earned its haunted reputation. By this point, the activity could no longer be ignored. Periwinkle Place Manor was no longer just a historic building with a dark past. It had become a place where unexplained events happened often and without warning. What made it even more unsettling was that these experiences were not tied to fear or imagination. They happened in ordinary moments, in plain sight, and in ways that made people stop and question what was really sharing the space with them. As word spread about the activity at Periwinkle Place Manor, people from outside the area began to visit on purpose. Some came out of curiosity, others came hoping to experience something paranormal for themselves. Many of them left with stories that matched what had already been reported, even though they had never been told what to expect. This made the hauntings harder to dismiss. One of the most talked about experiences involved a childlike presence. Visitors staying overnight reported the feeling of being watched from low to the ground, especially in rooms filled with antique furniture. Some described light footsteps moving across floors when no one else was awake. Others felt a gentle tug on blankets or a sudden cold near their legs, as if someone small was standing beside the bed. A particular room containing old toys became a focal point for this activity. Guests noticed a vintage rocking toy moving slightly on its own, even when the air was still. The movement was slow and steady, not sudden or violent. This happened during quiet moments and was witnessed by different people at different times, often without anyone else in the room. Another repeated sighting involved a tall figure dressed in light-colored clothing. This figure was usually seen in hallways or near doorways and never stayed for long. People described it appearing for only a second before fading away. The figure did not speak and did not react when noticed, but its presence left a strong feeling of unease. Audio recordings added to the fear. Visitors using basic recording devices later discovered voices they did not hear at the time. These sounds were often soft and short, sometimes resembling whispers or single words. The voices did not match anyone who had been present and were found during moments of complete silence. What made these encounters more chilling was their consistency. People who did not know each other described the same types of figures, sounds, and feelings. The experiences did not seem random. They followed patterns as if the same unseen residents were making themselves known again and again. By this point, it became clear that Periwinkle Place Manor was not just holding memories of the past. Something was still active inside, aware of those who entered, and willing to make its presence felt. As the reports continued to grow, Periwinkle Place Manor began attracting organized paranormal investigation teams. These were not casual visitors looking for a scare, but groups trained to document unusual activity using controlled methods. Their goal was simple: determine whether the experiences could be measured, recorded, or explained. Before any sessions began, teams carefully checked the building during daylight hours. They mapped out rooms, tested for electrical wiring issues, and noted natural sounds caused by the structure itself. This step was important because it helped rule out normal explanations later. Investigators repeatedly stated that many of the strange events happened in areas where no wiring or plumbing could cause interference. Once night fell, equipment was set up throughout the manor. Motion sensors were placed in hallways, temperature meters were left running in unused rooms, and audio recorders were turned on for hours at a time. These sessions were often done in silence, with investigators remaining still to avoid contamination of results. During several investigations, temperature changes were recorded without warning. Rooms that had been stable suddenly dropped in temperature for short periods, then returned to normal. These cold areas did not match outside weather conditions and appeared indoors with no open windows or doors nearby. Investigators noted that these changes happened most often late at night. Electronic voice phenomena sessions produced some of the most unsettling results. Investigators asked simple questions and left long pauses for responses. When audio was reviewed later, voices were sometimes heard that no one remembered hearing in real time. These sounds were faint and brief, often appearing between questions rather than during movement or speech. Visual monitoring also raised concerns. Stationary cameras occasionally captured shadows passing through doorways where no one had walked. These shapes did not match reflections or light changes and appeared solid for a brief moment before disappearing. In some cases, motion sensors were triggered without any visible cause. By the end of multiple investigations, teams agreed on one thing: the activity at Periwinkle Place Manor followed patterns. The same areas reacted again and again, even with different groups on different nights. While no investigator claimed to fully understand what was happening, many left convinced that the manor was not just an old building with stories. Something unseen was still interacting with the space, responding to those who tried to reach out. As time moved on, Periwinkle Place Manor became known far beyond the small town of Chelsea. Stories from investigators, guests, and caretakers continued to spread, turning the building into one of Iowa's most talked-about haunted locations. People did not come just for a scare. Many arrived curious about the history, while others wanted to understand why the activity seemed so steady and focused. What makes the manor stand out is how consistent the experiences have been over the years. Different visitors arriving at different times often described the same feelings in the same areas. Some spoke of sudden sadness or pressure in certain rooms. Others felt watched, even when alone. These reactions often happened without any prompting or suggestion, which only added to the mystery. The building itself plays a strong role in these stories. The preserved funeral home features, the quiet hallways, and the sense of stillness all contribute to an atmosphere that feels heavy and emotional. Many visitors said it felt less like a place of fear and more like a place that held memories that never faded. The energy felt personal, as if the past was layered into the walls. Skeptics have also visited the manor, hoping to disprove the claims. While some left unconvinced, others admitted they experienced moments they could not explain. Even those who did not witness direct activity often spoke about the strong mood inside the building, describing it as tense or uneasy without knowing why. Today, Periwinkle Place Manor stands as both a historic landmark and a paranormal hotspot. It represents more than ghost stories. It is a reminder of how places connected to grief and transition can leave lasting impressions. Whether the unexplained events are paranormal or something science has yet to understand, the experiences tied to the manor remain real to those who lived them. For many who walk through its doors, the question is not whether something strange happens there, but why it continues. After more than a century tied to death and mourning, it seems that Periwinkle Place Manor never fully let go of its past. And for those who believe in the unseen, the spirits inside may still be doing what they have always done, lingering, watching, and refusing to move on.